Okay, so we've already looked at perfect competition, and now I want to spend a little bit of time with the concept of imperfect competition. There are three market structures that fall under that category, and I'm going to start with monopolistically competitive because that's the one that's closest to perfectly competitive. And if you think of businesses kind of operating on a spectrum, one extreme is perfect competition, the other extreme is pure monopoly, and then you have gradation in between. So a step up from perfect competition is monopolistically competitive. And similar to the perfectly competitive firm, there are a large number of sellers in the market. There's easy entry and exit in and out of the market. They also have the same potential outcomes as perfectly competitive. In the short run, they can earn economic profits. In the long run, they can only get to a normal profit. Where they differ from perfectly competitive is that they have a differentiated product. They use advertising and branding to try to lure in consumers, and they are price makers. In other words, they can set their price. Now, of course, they are constrained by what the competition is doing. And so if we think about businesses that would fit into this box, a good one would be restaurants. Restaurants are relatively easy to get into, and they do have a differentiated product. If you think about restaurants in your area, even ones that have serve a similar style of food, let's say a Mexican restaurant, they have certain things that they will do to try to differentiate themselves from the competition. That could be special menu items. It could be live entertainment. Whatever it is, they're trying to make themselves different than the competition. And one way that they can try to highlight that is through advertising. And advertising, of course, is a pretty big business. There are some estimates that people are exposed to over 5,000 ads a day. Now, that seems like a ridiculously large number, but if you think about your average consumer that's driving around, they go to work, maybe they're on a computer, later they hop on TikTok or they watch some YouTube videos. Pretty much every place there's going to be ads for something. Even if you have the no ad Netflix, you still will get advertisements for other shows on Netflix, which is a form of brand strengthening. And so advertising is pretty prevalent in the monopolistically competitive and the next weight class up, oligopoly, which we'll talk about in another video. And the thing that makes imperfectly competitive firms a little bit different than the perfect competitive firms is they have their own individual demand curves that are part of the larger industry. And so according to the law of demand, to get more consumers to buy the product, they would need to lower the price. And so let's work a little bit of math here. So what this would say is let's say that the price point of something is $100 and we can sell one unit. If we lower the price to 90, now we can sell 2 units. This means our total revenue would go from 1 to 180. So our marginal revenue goes from 100 to 80. If we sell 3 units at $80, our total revenue is 240. So our marginal revenue is 60. What this is telling us is that the marginal revenue is decreasing faster than the price. And so we end up with a final graph that looks like this. Downward sloping demand curve, marginal revenue slopes inward, and firms still produce at this magical place where MR equals MC. But for the imperfectly competitive firms, they charge this price up here on the demand curve. So what ends up happening is, because we have shifted from perfectly competitive to imperfectly competitive, we have gone from this being our point of production and the sales price to this being the point of production, and that's the sales price. And so what we have, this triangle here, represents the dead weight loss to society that results from lack of perfect competition. Now, if we could work a quick problem here, and we could find the marginal revenue. We'd simply take the units times the price to get the total, and then the difference would be the marginal. So if we come here, I've worked out the table already, and you can see that marginal revenue will decline. Now, similar to the perfectly competitive firm, we have the same outcomes potentially. In the short run, if the price is greater than the average total cost is greater than the average variable, we have an economic profit. This will get new entrants into the market because there are no significant barriers to entry. If the price is equal to the ATC, this is a normal profit. That means all the costs, including opportunity costs, are accounted for. You're not going to get new entry into the market by rivals. Here, of course, our price is in between the two. So in the short run, we're going to operate at a loss, but remain open because we're at least covering the variable cost. But if this persists into the long run, we will shut down. And in this final situation, we're not even covering our variable costs, so we would shut down entirely after a reasonable amount of time has passed. This chart here shows what this dead weight loss looks like in action. And so if we look at this, this firm is earning a profit. How do we know? Well, the average total cost is here. The price is up there, so they're earning this rectangle of profit. This triangle is dead weight loss to society due to the restricted output that the imperfectly competitive firm is putting into the market. This example, we've got a normal profit because the average total cost is equal to the price. This is an example of the price being greater than the variable cost but lower than the average total. This is the situation where in the short run we're going to stay open. And then this one, of course, we can't even cover the raw materials to make the product. So eventually we will shut down after we've given it a little time to make ourselves known in the market and see how things play out. And again, as I had noted previously, the monopolistically competitive firm has the same long-run outlook as the perfectly competitive, where they will eventually settle into a normal profit as more and more competition enters to soak up any excess profits that the industry is enjoying. Future videos will talk more about oligopoly and monopoly, which are the two other types of imperfectly competitive firms. And what really separates monopolistically competitive firms from oligopoly are barriers to entry, and we'll talk more about that in a future